to just get our conversation started off with a brief presentation on some of the different terms related to collective and cooperative farming. I just wanted to get us all on the same page. Can everyone see my screen? Okay, cool, thanks. Okay, so yeah, collective and cooperative farming is defined differently depending on where you are, your cultural context. This is a definition that I found on Wikipedia, and it is agricultural production in which multiple farmers run their holdings as a joint enterprise or pool their resources in certain areas of activity. So that can look like a lot of different things. So one type of cooperative is a supply cooperative, and that is basically farmers joining together to take advantage of economies of scale and get a lower cost for the inputs that each of the members purchase from the cooperative. So examples of those inputs would be like seeds, like farm machinery. I mean, some of these might not apply if you're doing organic farming, and this is a very like agricultural focused definition of this. So yeah, that's basically a supply cooperative. Just again, just my understanding, I'm not an expert. And marketing cooperatives are where a bunch of different farms take their farm products and then provide it to the cooperative. The cooperative transforms it in some way if they need to, packages it, distributes it, and markets it. And there's actually a lot of marketing cooperatives are pretty prevalent in the US, like Darigold and Sunkist are marketing cooperatives. And then from what I can tell, the Alaska Beauty Peony Cooperative is a marketing cooperative, but maybe I got that wrong. So Allison can correct me on that later if I'm wrong. And then there's also community supported agriculture, which is where individuals, consumers, people who eat food and want to buy it from a farmer say like, I'm going to support you throughout this whole growing season, and then make that commitment, and then they get a weekly food box. So it could be like, if there's a really great growing season, it could be you get more food than you thought you were going to get. But if there's a drought or something, it could be less food. So it's really like a relationship between the community and the farm to provide mutual support and share the risks and benefits of the food production. And there's a lot of examples of those in Alaska. And then a food hub is seems to be somewhat similar to a marketing cooperative. They manage the like bringing all the stuff together, distributing, marketing, and there are quite a few food hubs in Alaska, one of which is Alutiiq grown. And Robbie will tell us more about that. And then I just wanted to give a shout out for community gardens, even though they might not technically be considered farms by some people. I think that definition is slippery, and there's so many different ways you can do a community garden, and it is a way of the community collectively investing in growing food together. So with that, I will pass it off to our panelists, and I will let y'all introduce yourselves, if that's all right.
Should I start?
Sure.
Hi, I'm Allison Gaylord, and I'm with the Alaska Beauty Peony Cooperative. I am the board chair, and I could probably just whiz through a couple slides to get going to introduce our organization and why we formed. I can share my screen.
Thank you.
Sure. So we are a marketing cooperative that was formed 10 years ago. We are a for-profit organization, though we're reconsidering that. I represent a dozen peony farms in the Ketchimak Bay area, and we've come together to jointly build our infrastructure, share some labor, to market and distribute cut flowers. But we've also realized that the investment in doing this is so large that we can't do it alone just as peony farmers, and we're looking to partner with other food security efforts in our area. So our mission has been to create a sustainable industry through shared marketing, infrastructure, staff, and education. We have a lot of different things going on. We expect a lot of volunteer time from our members. Each of the individual farms is owned independently, but each person that's bought into the business has a share. We come together to aggregate the flowers and distribute collectively, and quality control is most important. Our venture works because we are able to extend our season. It's not just one farm coming into production, but we have, a dozen that start producing crops in June, and that extends through August. So that helps us quite a bit. We've had a bit of success and slowly building up our infrastructure. It's not built in a year, and we've had a hard time, quite frankly, securing working capital to keep things going. But our business continues to grow despite this, and we're pretty excited about some of the partnerships we've been able to form. Just real quickly, I guess what has allowed us to be success, I guess there's just many aspects of, coming together as a group, but having a central facility is pretty key. And the partnerships, the people that we're working with is very important. Really, if you're thinking about forming a cooperative as a business, just really think about, what your business partners can bring to this, what people are willing to invest in terms of time or finances, resources, expertise. There are a lot of challenges, and it seems like a cooperative would be an idyllic way to move forward with a business, but the reality is that it can be very difficult to keep people engaged over a long discussion, that can last for years, trying to fund and build a business. Annual budgets in Alaska for farming activities are really tough because the season is short and we need to make it through the winter. Our goal has been to transition to actually have professional staff to assist the farmers, because it's so much work when the season comes on just to get our product to the point of being ready to be distributed. So without professional staff, we can't fill orders. And that's been tough. And distributing from Alaska is not simple. Advice, I guess, in general, words matter through all of our communication. We've tried to rebrand this year with the motto "Pick Joy" that we're trademarking, and we feel like that's important to convey across all of our relations with the community, with our customers and our farmers. And again, I just can't stress enough, like, just ongoing engagement and talking to everybody. And then one of the biggest things that we've just recently been shocked about with our cooperative is the increase in the cost for workmen's compensation insurance has gone through the roof. And so any business in Alaska that has more than 10 member owners, each member owner will be considered an employee, and workman's comp will be a requirement. So, and it's about $1,200 a member. And so if you've got farms that aren't producing even $1,200 worth of product, that's a challenge. So anyway, with that, I just leave a little bit about who we are and what our farms look like. We're small scale, and turn this over to Robbie to introduce herself.
Thank you, Allison. Let me see. Let me screen share here. So this is Supek Nerglakuki. We are feeding our people. We really don't fit any of the definitions that were on the screen earlier. Alutiiq Grown started out as a project of the Kodiak Archipelago Leadership Institute in Kodiak, Alaska, or Kali. And Kali was tasked about 9 years ago by rural leadership through the Kodiak Archipelago Rural Leadership Forum to assist our villages in bringing back food production that used to be pretty prevalent in our villages up until about the 1960s. Long story about what happened. And as we went forward on this journey, we began realizing that we were facing growing season issues. How do we support remote farms and rural communities only accessible by water or small air taxi? And so we came together as a region, started working together on this, and started actually finding funding to build these farms starting in 2015. We now have 5 very active farms in Larson Bay, Marlene's Garden, Port Lions Farm, Spruce Island Farms, and Uzinki. Sikalitic Farms in Old Harbor, our newest hydroponic urban farm in Kodiak, Moloch Farms, and we're working to assist Alutiiq down there on the south end of the island to bring their farm online. So what we do at Kali in support of Alutiiq Grown, as you can see on this slide, we obtain money to continue comprehensive training. We've continued to support beginning farmers, but we're also moving into more advanced topics. Farmers have requested, they really want to get orchards going on Kodiak, and the work that we've done indicates that they're probably going to have to be in high tunnels to do that. So trying to obtain the capital and the training to get those going. We provide technical site visits for both soil and hydroponic farms on site at each one of our villages. Every year we have a Kenai soil farm practicum where we take a group of farmers to the Kenai, spend a week on the Kenai, visiting farms. This year we're going to be focusing on O'Brien's nursery up in Nikiski because they do amazing work with fruit trees in high tunnels, and that their conditions are somewhat similar to Kodiak. And we also develop online farmer resources. We provide access to capital support. We develop collective grant development for our region's farms. Currently, we're finishing up a 3-year grant installing hydroponic equipment and training. And we provide webinars and workshops with USDA and other funding to support their getting access to things like the NRCS EQIP program, the Rural Cost Transportation Reimbursement Program, and we provide application assistance for those programs. And then the other thing that was mentioned earlier is we do have an Alutiiq Grown marketing and branding program called Alutiiq Grown and then we also have the Kiktuk Food Hub that I'll talk a little bit more about in the next slide. But overall, our regional goal is to build out a collaborative network of rural and Alaska Native-owned farms that operate year-round in support of food security in their own villages. And then we've got a really big farm expansion going on in Port Lions right now, funded through CARES and ARPA funding, that we're hoping will allow us for the villages to actually start bringing produce into Kodiak. Hang on here, I can't find my little button. So I was talking about the Kiktuk Food Hub. This is an online marketplace similar to what you see with the Alaska Food Hub, which was our model for this. We have pickup sites in each one of the villages, as well as in Kodiak that's being developed. We're doing cooking classes to assist particularly elders in learning how to like and prepare some of the food that's being grown. We had a big controversy about lettuce because Salanova lettuce does really well in hydroponic cabinets, but elders wanted iceberg lettuce. So we've been doing Caesar salad classes with Salanova lettuce and getting everybody excited about not eating iceberg lettuce that doesn't do as well in hydroponics. And then the other area that we're working in right now is we're also developing a network of kelp farms. We're in the middle of a training program that's getting ready to end next month, where this is our first cohort of farmer training, on the water training that will allow them to start their own farms. Again, access to capital webinars, that kind of thing. The same thing we're doing with our soil and hydroponic farms. So right now, Alutiiq grown is encompassing soil, hydroponics, and now we're going into mariculture. And a big thing we're working on with mariculture right now is a regional planning initiative. Our region has very, very strong concerns that this industry be developed in a way that supports rural and coastal Alaska, which many of you know did not happen with limited entry and IFQs. It actually caused ownership of valuable fishing rights to flow out of our state. So we are training and getting ready to permit off of our villages so that we have access to that resource and the benefits flow into the local community. And I think, whoops, I think that's it. We always like to end with this slide that together we're stronger. And there's my contact information, and I can also put that into the chat. So I'll stop there.
Wow, thank you both so much for your very thorough and also quick presentations. That was awesome. Well, like I said, if anyone has a question at any point, feel free to put that in the chat or raise your hand or whatever. But I will get us started. Just you both kind of spoke to this a little bit, but could you speak a little more on the process of how your organization formed and what brought it about? Yeah.
I guess I could go first. We initiated some meetings in discussion with the Alaska Cooperative Development Center through UA about 11 years ago, and they provided some expert guidance to us on the options for forming a farmers cooperative, for a marketing cooperative. So Andrew Crow was the point person there, and extremely helpful. So he helped us guide some of the early discussions.
Okay. And that was the Alaska Cooperative Development Center?
Correct.
Interesting. Okay.
And they're funded by the USDA's Rural Development Office out of Palmer.
And for Kali, as I said earlier, this actually came out of the villages. The idea that they wanted to reestablish farming, reestablish gardens, increase food security. So that started us on the journey of looking for grant funding, which we found through the Administration for Native Americans program. And then as we continued on that journey, it went to, okay, we need to expand our season. So that went to hydroponics, and again, going back to ANA for a second grant. And then they want to learn about mariculture. So that started another round of conferences, work sessions, and now actually starting to get farms on the ground. So our journey is more about support of coastal communities and bringing, and then what we've found over time, just I think as Allison expressed, is that it's very, very hard in rural communities for farmers to be by themselves, be isolated, so that by coming together as a region, we've built a really strong learning community where through our Alutiiq grown team meetings, we actually share information, excuse me, and they're actually starting to become their own experts.
Cool. Thank you both. It looks like Darren raised his hand. Do you have a question?
Yeah, yeah, excuse me. Thank you so much for this wonderful information and sharing your experience, both of you. Thank you. I have a couple questions. I'll try not to take too much floor time here. The one first thing I was wondering about, Allison, with the co-op, you mentioned quality control, and of course, you know, as a bunch of humans, we're always, you know, there are always so many ways for things to go well and things to get tough. And I was wondering if there are any examples of like where you have needed to maybe skirt the line or even cross the line on like quality control, like if a farmer wasn't able to harvest at the right time or the right way, and so their blooms were not in good enough shape for you all to send on their way into the markets, and what those kinds of conversations and how that kind of conflict resolution kind of stuff that you all have dealt with as a co-op.
It's tough. We do have standard operating procedures for delivery to the pack house, and we don't purchase, we basically distribute the flowers on consignment. So if something shows up and it doesn't meet the specifications to be shipped out of state, it doesn't go. And so the co-op doesn't buy everybody's flowers off the bat. So there ends up being sometimes flowers that just don't make the grade. And we've worked pretty hard actually to find other secondary markets for those, for value-added products. We're working on that right now, but the labor to produce those and the working capital to make that happen is pretty tough. But yeah, it kind of goes back to this, it's a constant dialogue. Every year we're updating our standard operating procedures and refining our communication. We have regular meetings, try to keep everybody engaged, show them what is acceptable quality, and we're only dealing with one crop. So, it's tough. Yeah, education is key. We've worked with the USDA's Agricultural Research Service to help us develop standards for harvesting and post-harvest processing. And we're still working with them as well. They've been a great resource. But I mean, I can speak to also some of the other flower cooperatives in state. They kick members out if they don't follow the standard operating procedures. And we may be too nice, to be honest. So, yeah.
Well, so Robbie, with the Alutiiq grown, do you aggregate all of the farm's products and then like distribute from a central place, or is it more like depending on what they want to do, or how does that all work?
We provide farm planning support. So we usually have a workshop in November. We work heavily with Oceanside Farms out of Homer, who come over and work with our farmers. But right now, all of the production is going into their home community. We've also provided, for example, we just had a workshop with DEC, with Dina Kolagi's group, where they came down and actually did a workshop where they developed their farm safety plan. It wasn't the growers trainee that all of our farmers have taken, but it was actually developing their farm safety plan. And the goal in the coming year is to start aggregating in Kodiak for those farms that have surplus that their home community can't utilize. And we're hoping that by using the online software platform, we'll be able to identify who's probably going to have a surplus early enough that we can get it into Kodiak so that it will be in good shape. And that's where we're at right now.
Right. Yeah, I love how many different ways that this can look. Could you both speak to some of the challenges with having a cooperative model of farming?
Well, I'll go first this time. It's always about money. It's always about money. It's always about, in our case, this is almost completely subsidized with grant funding to get it established and get it going. We recently signed a contract with the state for the local food purchase assistance program. And we're hoping that through that program, we're going to be able to stabilize the food hub over the next couple years so that it's not everything we do is so grant dependent. The farms are now functioning independently. The soil farms have been functioning independently for about 2 years. The hydroponics farms are starting to function. They will be cut loose at the end of September, and the big farm in Kodiak is currently doing their sustainability planning, and they're planning, hey, Stephen, and they're planning an expansion, but it's really for us how to keep supporting the farmers so that they can continue to feed their communities and bring more food into Kodiak.
Yeah, I guess I'll follow on with that. I mean, money is a big challenge. I mean, trying the margins even in cut flowers, which are supposed to be a high dollar product, are quite tight. And trying to build up our infrastructure while we're trying to pay enough to support the farms to continue farming is really, really challenging. And I question whether it pencils out, to be honest. And so we're trying to find ways that we can subsidize our working capital. But we think that, you know, what we're building could be more than it is, and will be more than flowers. We think that we can be a resource for dehydrating other agricultural products. We can house, we're working currently with the Homer Beekeepers Association to do winter hive storage. There are other opportunities to help literally pay for the roof and the power bill in the off season. And so that's what we're actively working on. And I am hopeful, but farming up here is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, really appreciate that, like, realistic perspective, because it can get kind of idyllic in your head. Looks like Emily typed in the chat, how many people do you need to get together to have a cooperative?
That's a good question. I don't know that there is a minimum. I think I think at least 4 to have a board. Treasurer, secretary, president, vice president, to file, you know, articles of incorporation with the state of Alaska.
Yeah, I would echo that. We don't, Alutiiq has not become its own entity yet. As I said, we're a project of Karoly, and Karoly is a nonprofit, so we're subject to the same board specifications that Allison just discussed. And for us, the member farms are really governed first by the number of villages who participated originally, and now that's slowly expanding. So, and we actually have some road system farmers that have been participating in some of our trainings, and we also have farmers that have been coming down to Kodiak as well. So for us, it's organic. And we just welcome whoever wants to participate, again, subject to, you know, funding.
I have a question following up to that explanation, Robbie. So you have this umbrella organization, and then you have this organic thing that's happening underneath it. But do you have some sort of like leadership team that's kind of pushing this forward? You said that they're kind of like, you're accepting of everyone, but are there core people that are constantly involved in helping making decisions? And what does that look like, and how do you communicate that?
Yeah, we have what we call, we don't call it a leadership team. It's our Alutiiq grown regional team. And what's happened over time is a lead point person has emerged in each community. And again, that was organic. It's not like it's the tribal administrator in each community or the city council mayor or whatever. It's, in some cases, it's the city council. In some cases, it's a tribe. In one community, we're working with a nonprofit that has leadership from their tribe, city, and native corporation. So, but what has happened is that we have a go-to person in each community that we work closely with, and then we bring all of these folks together at least once, usually twice a month, in our Alutiiq Grown team meetings, and that's when we plan our trainings. That's when we push to get their registrations, and we do everything through that Alutiiq Grown team meeting platform.
So they're not necessarily farmers, they could be anyone who's a support team.
Right, and we welcome, we really welcome tribal council members, city council members, because in a village, you need that support. You need to have community-wide support, and so our team encompasses all of that, and we encompass all of that at the forum as well, where all this started.
Thank you.
I guess just building off the last question about the challenges, in what ways have you seen that being part of a cooperative has allowed the participating farms to be more successful?
I guess I'll go first. As a cut flower farmer, I don't think I could handle all the year-round marketing and in-season distribution on my own. It's really nice to have staff consistently picking up the phone, answering emails, to help with order fulfillment, that type of thing. While we're in the midst of farming, it's a lot to take on to do all those roles. And while and I think that, you know, coming together as a group of different people with different expertise, you know, we're stronger together as a result. Yeah, I mean, the fact that we're trying, or we hope to be able to transition to hiring professional staff year round is huge. I mean, that's if we actually accomplish this piece, that's going to be great. I think for continuing to be a sustainable organization that can pursue grants, that type of thing, and not just do it as a bunch of volunteers.
So can I ask a question really quick? Your co-op has essentially volunteers right now that take orders and answer questions and get things ready to send out, or there's a paid crew that does that?
So we're going into our 11th season. For the first 6 seasons, it was 100% volunteer. Then we slowly started hiring seasonal help. This is the first year we've had some year-round part-time support in the off-season to help with marketing, grant administration, bookkeeping, a little bit of facilities support. And we're realizing, I mean, I'm putting in 20 hours a week volunteer time as the board chair on top of my full-time day job. So I'm still doing a lot of things to make this all happen. But my goal in the current grants that we're working on is to get the working capital to have full-time off-season staff to carry this thing. And then I think that'll open up a lot of other doors. As farmer cooperatives up here, and ours in particular, and I'm sure a lot of others would qualify for like the socially disadvantaged program funds from the USDA, qualify for funding from the state, from specialty crop initiatives. There's the value added producers grant funding. But in all of these things, you've got to have your documents together. You need to have a business plan. You need to have feasibility studies, marketing plans to go for these, you know, federal funds. And so we've been working pretty hard to get those pieces together. And
that takes a lot of time.
It takes a lot of time just to get this off the ground. And we're in year 10. And we're considered pretty successful, but it's not easy.
Yeah. So your other volunteers, are those also members of like the other farms, people that are essentially invested?
Yeah, so everybody's bought in a share of the co-op, and then we're each expected to do some volunteer time, head up a work committee, that type of thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Can I ask, is your only product the peonies?
It is right now, yes. Flowers and flower petal products, yes.
Okay. And the reason why I ask because I'm going to be traveling to some villages in the Lake Iliamna region this year, and I'm trying to make recommendations of what sort of best avenues they can consider that would help them sharing costs, sharing, I mean, the effort, sharing in the energy needed to make, I mean, just like distribution needs, I mean, just like planning needs. And so, I mean, it's going to be individual folks, or it might be community groups that go in to grow a garden variety. So, I mean, the cooperative wouldn't be able to focus on just a single end use product. And so that's kind of I'm sorry, were you about to say something? Because I'm at a loss sometimes when I think about it.
Yeah, no, I think it would be challenging to support multiple crops. I mean, we're working towards that goal. One of the grant programs we pursued was with 11 individual farms through the state of Alaska's mini or micro grants for food security. I led a stacked proposal of 11 farmers that helped to cost share some of our infrastructure, but we had to put in a lot of money on top of that. But we were successful, and if you can pull together the community support for those types of projects, there is funding. So those were $5,000 mini grants that we stacked to help with cold storage, to help with building a roof, electrical upgrades. But I mean, we've matched every dollar that's gone in, dollar to dollar. And I'm going to be honest, we haven't been able to pay our farms yet for flowers that were delivered last year because of our infrastructure investment. So we're coming down to, it's April, and I've personally loaned the business money to make the power bill and keep the lights on. I mean, that's where we're at, despite all the grants we're pursuing. Keeping that budget going through the winter is really, really hard if you're going to invest in facilities.
Thank you so much for that insight. That was one thing I didn't think about it in that light. I don't know why, because I'm specifically looking for sharing costs. But that reminds me of because since we're dealing with native groups or working with native groups, the ability to bring in a wider variety of stakeholder groups like the economic development focused folks and the community folks and the landowner. I mean, there's so many ways to create a cooperative that would fit sort of the needs of the producer and this economic scenario that they're producing in. So the cooperative model, I guess it might need to be more than just the producers, but perhaps also these other groups. Is that something that is normal?
Yes, definitely strong community buy-in, and I would lean on the resources that are available through the USDA and the university. I'll give an example with the food co-op in Fairbanks. Andrew Crow with the Alaska Community Development Center actually approached the electrical co-op in Fairbanks to help them subsidize their electrical costs for the food co-op up there. He did the same thing for us with Homer Electric, but Homer Electric is also a cooperative, but they were not interested in giving us a break on power. So for food security, if you can enlist, the university or the powers that be to help with offsetting some of those costs, and develop that foundation as you're trying to form those relationships, I think that would be really important. Recruit Tim Dillon from the Kenai Peninsula Economic Development District. Get Andrew on your team when you go to those communities. Talk to the power providers, that type of thing. Look at energy efficient ways to store food. We're looking at a number of different solutions in addition to for the flowers right now, looking at dehydration and other options. But yeah.
Awesome. Very appreciated. yeah, I will be traveling there with folks from APU. So I'm sorry I'm on the other side of the university struggle. I'm actually, well, not really, just I work with both groups. But we are trying to basically get butts in seats, whether in front of a professor or in front of a screen, so that folks can access online information. I mean, really just trying to help folks build up different avenues for making decisions on how they best want to feed their community. So I will definitely relay some of this insight and information. Um, um, and I just saw that in the chat, someone said talk with Evelyn Trefon. I actually was just on the phone with her earlier today. Yeah, we're going to be meeting with her, and yes, she is an all-star. So yeah, thank you for that. I actually didn't know that she did the ENA produce market. We just know each other from we're both in ENA, and just we're Facebook Indians, FBI. So if anybody at the Southeast group, I don't know anybody. If anybody can put me into contact with folks, I can get them in the lineup of who we're all reaching out to and seeing if they want us to visit.
So I see a few other questions in the chat. Thanks so much, Stephen. I'm glad you could join us.
No problem.
Can I quick jump in just to reply to Stephen? Is there's a I'm kind of here to support. There's a Beginning and Young Alaskan Farmers Network that's forming. It's a statewide collective that's kind of gathering. We've had 3 meetings. 2 of them were like social, like virtual socials, we framed them as, and it was a lot of just like like connection before I just started sharing information with them. So it was a lot of like getting to know each other. And then on the 5th of April 5th, we had like a mission making session, and there's some pretty good activity from across the state, including Southeast, and I would love more representation in Southeast to be in these meetings too. But this is kind of like a slow process. Like Robbie said that, like as new farmers, or maybe just farmers in general, it feels kind of isolating to like constantly be doing work in a vacuum. And so like I'm like an aspiring farmer. Next year I should probably have some real vegetables in the ground, but right now I'm building my soil. But I needed people in my corner that were in the same boat as me to like be thinking about this stuff. And so that was kind of like my initial pinpoint of why I started this network. And then also, like Allison talked about earlier in her presentation, that she said that, that like aging farmers, we need like the next generation of working farmers to feed our communities. So another reason to like really start this project. But anyways, just wanted to give a plug that you should definitely show up April 27th at 6:30 over Zoom. We're going to be having our next meeting, kind of like establishing these point people in different communities. That's why I asked Robbie about like this, like I called it a leadership team, but I have been having a hard time framing what that means and how that will all be decided, like not trying to be a gatekeeper of that stuff. So anyways, I'll send my email in the chat, and if anyone's interested, please show up. I'd love to connect.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And is your name Kyra?
It's Kira.
Kira. Cool. Thanks, Kira.
Yeah.
Cool. And then I saw that you had a question about a grant funding, and then also Selena in Copper Center put in a question about for someone starting from the ground up with very limited funds, where would you recommend starting? Not sure if that was in relation to farmer cooperatives, but yeah, I guess could either Allison or Robbie just like list off a few of the grants or resources that you've found to be particularly useful?
Okay, and I haven't responded to your previous question yet about how has the collective helped our farmers?
You're right, we got lost, sorry.
Yeah, so going back to that question, I think I've addressed that previously, but Karoly tries to provide a comprehensive training program that includes technical support on the ground, that includes farm planning, includes workshops, so that our farmers, we're helping them to progress and also to bring in new farmers, because our farming teams, these aren't your traditional like individual or family owned farm. These are community-based farms that are either owned by the tribe or the cities or a nonprofit. And so their farming teams are embedded in their organization. So we're constantly trying to bring in new young farmers, as Kara was just talking about. And then in terms of resources, specifically the question from Copper Center, I would reach out, I believe, and Iva, you should know this. I believe that UAF now has a tribal extension service that's available that would be able to at least give you informational assistance on what would grow well in your region, like your soil building. I think all of us know is a huge challenge in Alaska. We've spent a great deal of time on soil building, particularly trying to identify what we can do locally, because it's so expensive to bring in amendments from outside. I mean, who wants to bring in bags of lime when you've got kelp down on the beach? So I would start with the extension service. And then also, I believe you've got a tribal Stephen, you can jump in here. I believe they've got a great tribal conservation district active up in the Otna region, don't they? That may be able to support beginning farmers.
Yeah, that's Karen Linnell's, who's the lady that I know that's on it. And it is the ATREC Otna Tribal Resource Commission, I believe. And they I don't know what programs they have going on right now for support. I have been working with her through the Alaska Resilience Farms, or with that group through the Alaska Resilience Farms. So if you do reach out to her about support for farms, she might send you my way. But they do have some focus on youth going on over there, so they might send you over to I believe Irene might be the lady there, but please don't quote me on that, because
Yeah, we actually worked with Irene and with someone else in Copper Center too, so we can help make those connections too. Send an email.
sounds great.
Yeah.
Awesome. I would really
Well,
appreciate that.
yeah. I'm so glad that we're making connections to this. This is like the whole point. Were there any other questions? I know there's probably a lot, so sorry, we're running out of time here.
And I'm about to jump off, but please, if you feel like anybody wants to reach out to me, my email did change, and I will put that in the chat. But I will be still. I'm changing hats, and I'm actually leaving Alaska Village Initiatives to go into my own private practice. And my email that I'll leave is the one for that. And if anybody has any interest in gardening or farming workshops that we'll be having going on throughout the year, I will keep you all updated. We will have some events here in town Thank you, Robbie. I will definitely keep you all informed as things to move forward. Definitely a lot going on. Janan.
Thanks, Stephen. All right, if you have a burning question or comment or want to share like your farmer cooperative dreams, now is the time.
So I don't know if this would be a cooperative outcome or not, or if it would just be in cooperation. But one of the things that I'm exploring is the idea of re-inspiring people in particularly Southeast. I don't know if it would be the same in other parts of Alaska, because Southeast has such a strong tourism community. Tourism is our main industry, but I'm trying to spark interest in other farmers to cultivate more flowers in their garden, and through that, building some sort of base for income to support our food production, because food production, you know, I know you can make money with it, but it just seems a lot harder to make that equation work. And with the cruise ships coming in, we don't have a moving target. Well, it kind of is a moving target, but it's not shipping them down south. It's not having to deal with long-term storage and protecting them. So I'm just putting that out there for anybody who's in the Southeast, or anybody who maybe has other ideas of larger networks for encouraging flower production in Alaska and making us, if we're more well known for that, maybe there's more money to be made there. I don't know, but that's my piece.
I guess I can speak a little bit to the cruise ships coming through Homer. We haven't seen much interest in folks on the ships actually buying flowers when they're visiting Homer. I don't know if that's, they just don't want to bring them on board. But maybe that's different in the types of cruises that are coming through Juneau. Have you had success in actually finding a market there?
I personally haven't yet. Our farm is quite small, and so we're still building up the flowers that we're growing. But I do know that there used to be a garden here that grew more flowers, and they were pretty successful with the floral aspect of what they were doing. And I think they did sell to the cruise ships, and I'm not sure. Unfortunately, the woman who ran that program is no longer with us, but I believe that they sold to people, for weddings and celebrations, as we all know is constantly happening on cruise ships. But also there's people who come here to get married and, go on their anniversary and this and that. So yeah, I just think that there is a potential there. And like they say, often marketing is the problem, or the solution rather. You can tell
right,
people
and
you've got an answer to their problems.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think there's definitely a market in state. I can speak, to Homer, there were 25 cut flower farms established just for peonies. And so I'm not going to say they're like zucchinis here, but we have a lot of them locally available. And we've actually done a lot of partnerships with groups around the state to do flowers for fundraisers, and so that we don't have to pay the extra cost to go out of state. But the margins are not that great. I mean, these are all cost recovery type of activities. Yeah, but I would think, yeah, there definitely would be a local event market in Juneau. Folks would want locally grown flowers, and you could be known for that.
I just wanted to add in, this is Darren in Juneau, at the Southeast Farmers Summit, there was a really great examples of farmers getting food onto the mini cruise ships, like, the 6 to 10 or what have you. And there's a great network, it sounds like, of them who are interested in supporting local farmers, producers. And I didn't hear anything about cut flowers, but I think that's a great idea, that they are probably hungry to have a beautiful display on, as a centerpiece kind of thing. Whereas the cruise ship, yeah, I don't know about the cruise ship thing, but I do know that those small cruises and connecting with them, and I mean, I could help connect the dots on that if people wanted. And I look forward to catching up with you, Brooke, and here in Southeast Alaska. And then, of course, agritourism is a huge thing. So if people can put a little bit of if you can house people, especially, then you can charge them to just have a farm experience, and they love it. That's what I do when I go traveling. I look for them. Agritourismo.
We've started an annual Peony celebration here in Homer. We're going into our 4th year, and we have a variety of scheduled events, including farm tours that folks pay to go on. And I'm actually trying to think of ways that maybe we could have folks volunteer for a day on the farm and actually do some labor, help pick flowers or something, and but comes back to marketing. But yeah, I think there are definitely opportunities for venues, for having wedding venues on the farms, whether they're for flowers or not. And I'd love to hear more about how to tap into the cruise ship visitors.
I mean, you're kind of doing that with your peony jelly, right? And the bath salts and those like nice novelty items, you know.
We're trying. Yeah,
Yeah.
we definitely are. Yeah.
And there's another potential business model for like flower subscriptions, like bouquet subscriptions. And that's more of a local thing. It's definitely not a ship out kind of thing. And like I said, our farm doesn't have the production yet for me to feel confident having people sign up for a subscription. So hopefully that's something that we'll get into in the future. But I just wanted to throw that out there for anybody who is considering growing more flowers and how to market that. You know, we've got a lot of hotels here, hotels and Airbnbs and things like that, restaurants.
But I just want to introduce myself real quick, even though we have 1 minute left. And I'm sorry I'm late. But this is such a great conversation, and I'm going to watch the recording. But my name's Erica. I live here in Haines. I work with Brooke a little bit too. And I'm working to try to create a Lynn Canal local food network. And so one big component of that is farming. And so part of that is trying to figure out like a farming collective, possibility of acquiring land. And there's just so many different layers to trying to create, as you know, successful food systems specific to agriculture. So I just wanted to introduce myself quickly. And then also I'm wondering, is this like an ongoing conversation? I know here, Kira, you mentioned that you're going to be having a meeting on the 27th, but is that going to be specific to the collective, or just wondering if this is going to be ongoing too? So thank you for organizing this.
There was no plan for an ongoing discussion about this, but I think that would be great. And maybe, I don't know, maybe this like Alaska Cooperative Development Center would be a good organization to learn more. You know, I mean, we're not really experts on farming cooperatives, more on just like bringing people together. And yeah, so so yeah, I think that seems like a really great organization to reach out to.
Okay, I'll do that. And that's Andrew Crow.
Yeah, I'll just post their link in the chat too for.
And
Yeah, I
then
posted his email address in there as well.
for
It
the
might be good to
day-
have him present to this group, perhaps.
Yeah, I didn't even know about this organization until today, so thank you so much for sharing. Yeah.
And then for the Beginning and Young Farmers Network, so April 27th, we'll be meeting. And then I think I was going to encourage us to like all meet in our respective communities in May, and I was going to help organize those like lead people that kind of like come to the surface in each of those communities. And then we have a couple of different communication spaces that like we're kind of actively kind of ping-ponging ideas off of each other. And then also I would encourage you to like, Erica, I met you at the beginning, or not the beginning, the Southeast Farmer Summit, as well as Brooke and Darren. You know, that Discord is there and available and like pretty active. So I would definitely like, if there's places to put your energy into, like those existing places are awesome. And then but the beginning Young Farmers too, I was think that will kind of sort of go dormant as like a place that gathers regularly for the summer, just because I think it's a little unrealistic to try and once a month meet with people during the summertime. But I was going to meet with people kind of like one-on-one some more and kind of like get to know and translate some of those like deeper connections in creative ways. And then starting in November, we'll kind of like pick up again and meet at least monthly, if not more. So that's kind of like my long-term vision for the network.
Cool. Thanks for sharing on that.